Croeso. Hello, I'm Siwan Williams and welcome to my research project presentation. I have now come towards the end of 2 years studying an MSc Counselling course. Previously, I studied my undergraduate degree here at Bangor University, studying child and youth studies with psychology, before moving towards this course, and a pandemic, of course. My research project question highlighted the importance of self-care practices and if self-care does improve well-being among student counselling professionals. This presentation will last roughly between 15 to 20 minutes, and I welcome you the opportunity to ask questions in the live stream at the end. Firstly, I would like to explain what well-being is. According to the National Health Service, there are 5 steps to reaching mental well-being. 1. Connecting with others. 2. Being active. 3. Learning new skills. 4. Give to other individuals. And finally, being present. Engaging in all these aspects gives the opportunity to improve lives positively. Self-care. Self-care is when an individual makes a conscious decision to improve their own mental state, essentially recognizing their needs and adopting a healthier way of living. The Mind charity lists examples of self-care, which include self-regulation, improving well-being, and managing stress. Mind stress that reviewing these regularly can improve quality of life. We listed 2 hypotheses. Hypothesis 1. Participants studying counselling who partake in self-care practices will report higher levels of well-being and self-awareness. Hypothesis 2. Counselling students who do not utilise self-care practices will report lower levels of well-being and self-awareness. Whilst there was the potential to consider the relationship between self-awareness and well-being, this study focuses solely on an exploration of whether self-care practices could be identified within counselling students and whether there was any relationship between self-care practices and their levels of well-being. Method. We recruited our participants through social media using opportunity sampling. Criteria for participation including students aged over 18, ranging from first-year students to postgraduate students. All participants were studying a master's degree at Bangor University. I decided to concentrate on 4 participants for whom we had complete a dataset. Whilst this reduced the sample size, it ensured that we were able to properly consider their self-care practices alongside their well-being scores. Questionnaires. Our study included the PERMA Profiler Wellbeing Questionnaire from Butler and Kern. The concept of positive psychology, first noted by Maslow and studied more scientifically by Seligman, focuses on strengths and added value rather than on weaknesses and addressing deficits. In 2011, Seligman developed 5 pillars of well-being. I will now give a brief explanation of all domains. Positive emotion. As individuals, we can experience positive and negative emotions at the same time, which can vary in how long they last. Having high levels of positive emotion can allow us to flourish in helping to broaden our awareness. Engagement. Engagement can be defined as flow, a concept where an individual loses a sense of time and a sense of self. Relationships. Positive relationships have an impact on our mental health and well-being. Receiving support from other individuals has effect on our happiness levels. Engaging with and being accepting of other individuals is an essential part of reaching a desired level of well-being. Meaning. The meaning domain is a concept where an individual is aware of the meaning in their life. Meaning is labelled as a subjective measure that describes well-being and involves being connected with something larger than the self. Accomplishment. Accomplishment can involve working to achieve goals. It highlights personal ambition, drive, but also personality differences, as well as additional 8 items that address physical health, negative emotion, loneliness, and happiness. Following the PERMA questionnaire, we added self-care practices and psychological habits section. These questions included common activities and hobbies people take part in. Participants were asked to tick how often they would engage in these activities listed. Examples of these were meditation, spending time with family, spending time with friends, writing in a diary, and so on. We defined self-care in 3 ways. Firstly, guided. I engage in this activity when prompted, encouraged, or instructed by others. Secondly, scheduled. I engage in this activity at a specific time that I decide in advance. And finally, spontaneous. I engage in this activity whenever I feel like it. This allowed us to gain an insight into what self-care practices were being used, but also how frequently they were introduced into participants' routines. Research findings. Our findings discovered that each participant did engage in some sort of self-care practices. The overall well-being score of each individual was 6, 6.5, 8, and 8. Whilst it is possible to arrive at an individual overall well-being score, it is important to consider the implications of doing this in some cases. For example, if a participant has varied scores, arriving at an overall score, this may disguise areas of particular concern which could be addressed. I will now refer to 2 participant results which we analysed in detail. Participant 26 is a 46-year-old who reports high functioning in the engagement and accomplishment domains, below normal functioning in the meaning, low functioning in positive emotions and relationship domains, with high reported loneliness and low levels of happiness. In the self-care practices questionnaire, many activities are completed spontaneously, with spending time with friends and family being introduced at an organised time. Participant 26's overall score of 6 places participant 26 in the below normal functioning category. This overall score does not reflect the greater variance in scores and belies the high functioning category in the engagement and accomplishment domains. Participant 17 is a 34-year-old female. This bar graph illustrates participant 17's level of normal functioning across positive emotion and accomplishment domains. High functioning across engagement and meaning domains, with very high functioning indicated in relationships. Further strengthened by the low score of loneliness. Partaking in many activities daily and whenever she feels like it. Participant 17 also engages in some pre-planned activities at certain times. Participant 17 is clear on what activities she includes into her routine. Participant 17's overall score places her at number 8. This is in the high functioning range and is relatively a true reflection across the domains due to the consistent scoring across each PERMA. This research has given us an insight into individualised self-care routines in student counsellors and into their importance in improving well-being and outcomes for clients. The results have identified that not every participant has consistent levels of PERMA, although we see a variation between all pillars. We discovered that keeping self-care practices current and effective is an essential part of being a successful psychotherapist. Requiring individuals keep to a limited, effective practice can be seen to be more productive. Practical implications. Although no study is perfect, we collected data in a quantitative manner mainly. As researchers, we included a final question in the Psychological Habits Questionnaire, which gave participants the opportunity to expand on their thoughts. Gathering all information together gave us a comprehensive view of the findings. The comment bubble provided a sample of qualitative information to further analyse. In addition to this one question included, future research could expand on this further. I believe it would be beneficial to hold an even larger set of qualitative methods, such as an interview or a focus group component. Selecting 3 or 4 random participants from the sample at the end of the questionnaire stage, providing more open questions would enable a deeper insight into specific self-care practices and their impact. Conclusion. In conclusion, it seems that there is a relationship between self-care practices and reported well-being in trainee counsellors. The sample of trainee counsellors do identify as having some self-care practices in place, but they tend to be irregular. Trainee counsellors need to be guided on the principles of self-care practices in order to improve well-being and to prevent stress, compassion fatigue and burnout, which can lead to ineffective clinical practice. When training to be a successful counsellor and in preparing students to deliver effective counselling sessions, it is crucial that graduate students have high levels of personal well-being and do participate in some self-care in order to improve client experiences, satisfaction and outcomes. That concludes my presentation. Thank you for listening. I look forward to answering any questions you may have.